All right, and joining us this week, we have Cameron Hughes. Cameron, how are you doing today, sir?
I am so good, and I'm so happy to be here. I wish I was live in the beautiful hometown.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got the hometown boy currently. Where are you right now? You said you just came across the border once good old
I'm
COVID
in
happened.
BC. Yeah, I'm in Victoria, BC, waiting for the roads to open. Then I'm going to drive across the country.
Okay, okay.
It's going to take a while, though.
Yeah, yeah. If
Yeah,
you've got a timeline, that's news to me because who knows when the heck any of this stuff's going away, right?
right. I mean, I'm going to go visit every arena that I've been hired in and drive across the country.
Oh, that'll keep you pretty busy because you've been a pretty busy guy as far as actually going across, coast to coast, big venues, small venues, everything in between. I mean, a logical place to start is when someone asks you what is it you do for a job, what do you say is your profession? How do you describe what it is
Uh,
you do?
I was on a plane with a guy, and I was exhausted. I'd just been performed the night before, and I've got to fly to another game. And the guy next to me like tells me his whole story. Then he's like, "So what do you do?" And I was like, I'm in the energy business." And he was like, "What?" Yeah, I mean, I think when I really look at it on a deeper level, it's like I think I ignite people in the sense of like being a spark to have a little more fun, to let loose, to connect, to be part of the experience more. I just want people to feel a little something extra, something a little special, and to we all go to sporting events for different reasons, right?
Hmm.
I mean, some people just want to complete 3 hours of nothing. They want to be with their buddies. They want to cheer on their team. It's sort of an all of the above, right?
Yeah.
And if I can be someone that just makes you laugh a little more, boom, that's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So what would be sort of your title if you were to put it on the business card? Is it a professional fan? Is it ambassador of enthusiasm? Like, what's sort of your one liner there?
Well, it used to be on my dating profile was extreme dancer, but I started off as the dancing guy, and then it came into super fan, and then cheer guy, crowd igniter. Um, you know, for me, it's like I've always wanted people to at least call me by my name, but I don't get introduced at events, so it's more, that guy, t-shirt guy. I've had everything.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, like we were just saying, you're from Ottawa originally there, and this all actually started at a Sens game way back in the early 90s, of all places there. What do you remember about that first night?
Oh, I've never been asked it in that way. It's a great question. I've always been asked, how did it start?
Yeah.
Right? Were you drunk? What were you thinking? Did you go in with this? Yeah, no, a buddy of mine, it was January 8th, 94, playing the Jets. Team was horrible, like horrible. Civic Center was, it was quiet.
Yeah.
It was a interesting arena. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But it was sold out, right? Back in the day, it was packed and people wanted to have fun. And it was exciting that the Senators were a new team. And I was with a buddy, and I had season tickets from the day one. I was I've never talked about this, but I was number 800 on the sign up list.
Okay.
So I had my own season tickets. They were up in the bleachers, like way, 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 like
Yeah.
5 rows from the top. All I could afford at the time. And I always was like, wait a minute, we got to do something here. But I was never had the right seat or the right moment.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting there. It's quiet. It's a library, right?
Yeah.
First period, nothing. We're down a goal going into the third, 8 minutes to go. I look at my buddy, and he's like, could feel me. He was like, this tension in me. I'm like, gotta do something, gotta do something. And the crazy part is we were just drinking Coca-Colas and popcorn. We weren't into the beers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna do something. He's like, what are you gonna do? Don't do it. And I got up on my seat, Kyle, and I just started to dance, but I turned around and I looked at the crowd. Like I was looking at them. You know what I mean? I had my back to the ice, and I was focusing on just this crowd. And I think that, I don't know, like psychologically, they felt like I was putting on a show just for them.
Yeah.
And they reacted, and the rest of the arena is like, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
And I remember having this really weird out of body experience after I sat back down, truly going, what did I just do? How the hell am I going to get out of this? Right.
Yeah.
And the play resumes, and the next whistle, the DJ plays like Everybody Dance Now or Boom Boom, like one of those big,
Classic
no
jock cams.
limit songs, right?
Yeah.
And 10,000 people turn around and look at me. Yeah. And 10,000 people turn around and look at me and they're like, keep dancing, man. So I get up from my seat and I tell people this is why I've had the career, because a lot of people get crazy in their seat, but they don't take it to the aisle. Right? So I go to the aisle and I've got 6 people to go through. And I have buddies who still talk about this that were there. And I get to the aisle and I start going up and down the aisle. And there's only 15 seconds of footage of my first year ever on camera. Because no one had cameras, right?
Yeah.
And I'm wearing jeans on jeans, obviously, right? And I'm just going nuts. I just won't stop. There's no quit. So I stop. The crowd goes wild. Get back to my seat. There's a young intern there from the Sens saying, "Hey, we want your number." And I'm like, "To do what?"
Am I in trouble?
And then, yeah, I mean, you can't kick me out. The game's over. It's always been my joke, right? And then I remember going to a bar in the market and having people come up to me, kind of give me the fist bump, like, "Hey, good for you. We needed that. Hey, that was fun. What were you thinking?" And I'm like, "I don't know." You know what I mean? Like, I didn't go in there thinking I'm going to do this. If I had, it wouldn't have worked, right? Yeah. And then I was on the front page of the Ottawa sports section. Or there's an article in the sports in the Ottawa Sun saying "Dancing Redhead Bandit Steals Show at Senators Game," something like that. And my dad's like, "What'd you do last night?" I'm like, "Nothing."
just made the front page of the sports section. No big deal.
Just lost a friend and banned from ever going to a game again. But other than that, Dad, it was great.
Yeah.
It kind of, that was it. That was the moment, where I just let loose.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, most people, well, not most people, but some people, you'll see them at the whether it's a Sens game or an NBA game or whatever, and the Jumbotron will go on them and they panic, right? They'll hide behind their friend or they'll get all shy and, they don't like the attention that they're getting there. Whereas with you, we've got the complete opposite end of the spectrum, right? You relish that moment. Were you always sort of, loving being the center of attention, sort of class clown growing up, or was this more of a like out of character thing for you to have done that night?
No, I mean, I was the guy, and I went to high school in Ottawa. Didn't make the high school basketball team is sort of my thing, but I went and cheered them on instead. I had my mother passed away in the middle of high school, and she kind of gave me this spark that I needed, to be a little more fearless, to come out of my shell in some ways. Like, I wasn't not outgoing. I just wasn't like next level, Yeah. And so I started cheering on my friends at their away games. And then I was like, wait a minute, let's bring people to our gym. And I became Mr. Spirit. And then I went to university and wore a watermelon on my head. Then I was Lenny the Lynx, the mascot for the AAA team.
Yeah.
But really that night, I didn't have a mask on. All those other times I was hiding behind something, if you really want to, like, if I really look at it, I wasn't like, this is me. And, it was all these things that laid a foundation for that moment to happen. Right. So people are like, "Oh, are you just crazy? Like, what are you, like, pulling a Bart Simpson?" It was like, no, it was, or Homer, whatever it was. It was like, it was just the right place at the right time, at the right game, at the right night. It just all fell into place,
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine if the Sens had put out an ad saying, "Looking for people to pump up fans at the game"? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. There would have been quite the cast of characters that would have come out for that, I'm sure.
But also would have been forced, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all know, like, we don't want to be, no one wants to, quote unquote, be told what to do at a sport event, but we'll take direction if it's in a fun, entertaining way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the way that I started it, I've been thinking, I've been asked a lot of questions recently about, like, how do I think I've still had a career after 26 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because I've tried to recreate that feeling that I had that first night, which then creates the feeling that the fans had, which is a moment of spontaneous celebration and joy, And I try to bring that to, if I'm at a gig in Asia or if I'm in Brandon, Manitoba at a Wheat Kings game, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So, I mean, you already touched on it there. So obviously the little intern comes up there and, "Oh, can I get your number?" Okay, that's all well and good, and you probably, being a little bit younger, figured, okay, I'm gonna make a little extra cash here. No big deal. What was sort of the tipping point, though, where you went, you know what, this is more than just a sort of one-off thing. Like, I could legitimately have sort of a career out of this. Does anything stand out where you sort of went, you know what, I'm pushing my chips to the middle of the table, I'm going all in with this?
Yeah, I mean that took a couple of years. I did it for the Sens the first year. They gave me this jersey, which is an old Sens jersey. Like that was my payment, was a Sens jersey, a bagel stick, which somewhere in storage somewhere. The next year they paid me a few $100, and then I went to Toronto because they didn't make the playoffs, and I had it in there to do Leaf games back at the Garden, where it was just hysteria at that moment. The Leafs were playing really well. And it was the moment where I saw that it didn't matter if you were a Sens Leafs fan. Obviously Ottawa and Toronto has a great rivalry now, but the fans just wanted to have fun. Like it didn't matter. It wasn't because I was from Ottawa cheering on the Sens that they reacted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm doing the Leafs. I get there is footage of this. They see me on Hockey Night in Canada. Harry Neal calls me out and says, "Oh, this guy's gonna have a swelled head in the morning," and assuming that I was drunk and acting crazy. And a buddy of mine from Ottawa saw this and heard this, and he wrote Ron McLean and Harry Neal a note saying, "Hey, this guy's, you don't need to like attack him. He's just trying to have some fun."
Yeah.
So the next night, Saturday night, Hockey Night in Canada, I'm doing my thing. The electricity in the building was off the charts. And Harry Neal talks about me this time, and he says, "Look at this guy go. He's amazing. He's Cameron Hughes from Ottawa. He's a motivational consultant." I'm like, what? But that was it, because you know how many people watched that? Like
Yeah.
1.5, 2 million people. Nobody was posting about it on the internet, but it happened.
Yeah.
And I remember, dude, driving back from Toronto to Ottawa going, I got to figure this out. Like,
Yeah.
that was amazing.
There's
And
something here.
it was a series of moments like that, and then I had a crazy trip that went to LA where I did, a Ducks, a Laker, and a Kings game to see if maybe they would hire me. And they didn't at the time, but a guy had been at all three games from Washington Sports and Entertainment. So then he hires me. So it's like, it's a story of like, it's a story. I feel like okay, that was a little obnoxious, but you know what I mean? My story is a story of also like showing up and things are going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I didn't plan like half the stuff that happened. It's just a matter of being there. And I think that that's, I wish someone had said, when I was a little younger, like trust the process a bit more, because you do good work, you see results, the people like what you're doing, maybe they'll call you, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, for those that are watching the YouTube version of this here, the podcast listeners, you'll have to take our word for it there. But I mean, you're in sort of a man cave of just jerseys and sweaters and everything that you've done over the years here.
Yeah.
Give us a little tilt here. Show us what you're working with on the walls there. Like you've got to
I got a
have.
few jerseys here.
Yeah,
Look at this one, Cardiff Devils, Belfast Giants.
yeah. And
look at this
like,
one, little retro.
there you go. You did the reverse retro before Adidas got there, right?
Yeah, look at that Bees retro. Yeah,
So,
I mean, I've got jerseys go on and on. I got the Ice Dogs, Steelheads, Royals, Mooseheads. I mean, I've done, I think it's 128 different hockey rinks I've been to.
wow. And how many, if we're taking in all sports here, like how many different in a professional capacity, not going in, just as a fan, oh, I bought a ticket, I showed up, whatever, but how many different venues would you say that you've actually performed at over the years, if you had to ballpark it?
Oh, I've never actually, I mean, I list them all in my new project. If we're allowed to talk about it yet. But I list them all. I've never counted, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hundred, right? Hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, I joked with someone recently. I said I should be a consultant on stadium experience construction. And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, I know the best arenas are the way they build them for the fan experience."
Yeah.
And they were laughing, and then they're like, "Oh, that makes sense,"
Yeah.
because there's a lot of horrible arenas, right? Where you just,
yeah.
the vantage point isn't great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's 41 states, 9 provinces, and 10 countries, sort of the stats.
Wow. Wow.
and all started in Ottawa, Canada.
Yeah, yeah. And if you were to build sort of your Mount Rushmore of, most memorable experiences, what are some of the ones that make the cut for you that stand out above the rest?
Well, U.S. Open tennis has been really good to me. I convinced them to let me come and perform there for. I asked for $1. They had said no, and I hammered them, and I'm like, no, you got to let me in. And then next thing I know, I'm having a dance off with Novak Djokovic and Rafa Nadal. I'm meeting him, and then I'm asked to do Roger Federer's tennis tournament, charity tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's New York City, right? I mean, it was just electric. It was insane. And then the one event that stands out, and and then there's Madison Square Garden. My whole thing is I didn't make my high school basketball team, but I made it to Madison Square Garden. And I remember, calling my basketball coach who cut me from Ottawa. And I'm like, hey, coach, you cut the only guy that made it to the NBA. What were you thinking? But the biggest event for me, if there was just like someone said, what's the one? It would be Vancouver 2010. I was at the gold medal game, Canada, US. People are like, well, they didn't need you. I'm like, if you watch that game, how quiet the Canadian crowd is at a certain point, because they were so nervous.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I'm like, I got to do something here. And they told me they wanted me to be neutral, right?
Yeah.
That's the one game I was not neutral.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was right behind when Sydney scored. I was right behind the net. I remember celebrating. I'd been performing. I remember running downstairs to this, little makeshift weird locker room, showering, running upstairs to my friends that were there. And I'd been so focused and so disciplined, 2 games a day for like however many days it was, like 24 games. So a long time. And I remember having a beer after Canada won gold. And it was just like, oh, I did it. It was so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything that you haven't gotten a chance to do yet that's still sort of on your bucket list of, oh, before I hang them up, I would love to do whatever event or whatever arena?
Oh, Game 7, the Senators Stanley Cup Finals, and they win.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Super Bowl would be cool. There's nothing that I'm like. There's a few things that used to drive me that I really wanted to do, and I got through a series of moments of showing up, I got to do it. 2 different times I went from the NHL Finals to the NBA Finals back-to-back nights, which was like at that point I was like, okay, I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm good. But yeah, I mean, there's not. I want to do some more stuff internationally, I think.
Okay.
I've done hockey in Europe, rugby in Europe, rugby in Asia. I kind of like want to do some baseball game in Japan or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that would be really cool there. I mean, right now they've got the robots in the stands for the fans there, so don't know how you could fire them up. But when you get back to the live people, at least there.
If I could, I'd be like, that'd be next level, right?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously in your line of work, when things are going well and the crowd's feeding off you, it's great, right? But have you ever had that experience where you're giving it your all and you are getting nothing back from the crowd? It's crickets, everyone's looking at you sideways. Like, what do you do in those moments?
You run to the door. Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of, to be fair, I've had a lot of those. Like, a couple stand out, but it's really hard. Like when you're actually hired, I always say to someone, if you're hired to paint that wall, you figure it out. You know what I mean? If it takes you 8 hours, you do it. Yeah. For me, if you're hired, your specific goal is to energize, engage the crowd, and they don't want to come with you, it's awful. Yeah. Or if I'm sick, or I did a game a year ago in Vegas, and the doctor came in and like checked me out and was like, you probably shouldn't do this game. They gave me an IV. And then like some of the fans are like, are you okay? It doesn't seem like you're feeling it tonight. So if I'm not feeling it, how could they, right?
Yeah.
But there's a game in Leeds, a rugby game I did, and there's video of it where it took me about a minute to get the crowd going. They were just looking at me like, are you going to stop? Like, what are you doing? And they finally got into it.
Yeah.
And it was awful.
Yeah.
The
longest minute of your life, I'm sure.
It was. And then I won them over though. Like I kept going. I think the more I kept going, the more they're like, okay. And then The other big one that stands out, if you're a hockey fan, would be the New Jersey Devils. The first time I went to Prudential Center, they were like, Lou Lamoriello was famous for not marketing, not doing anything fun, letting the hockey speak for itself, right?
Mhm.
And I remember going to the game, and before the game, the two guys that hired me that I'd worked with in other arenas were like, "It's a tough crowd here, tough crowd." And I was like, "Oh, thanks for the pep talk."
Yeah.
Right? Dude, I got up and it was crickets. I was like going to get on a flight home.
Yeah.
I think it was 5 different times before they finally reacted to any sort of, and then I realized, at an early age, thankfully, that you got to wait for the right time to get up too,
Mhm.
when the crowd's quiet or when they're wanting to come up with you,
Yeah. Yeah. Timing's everything.
timing is everything at those games. And I've learned to really read the crowds. And I think that that's, probably another reason why I've had, been doing this so long is because I've gotten better at it.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, on a lighthearted note here, on your website, you actually have listed as 8 hospitalizations as one of your statistics that you've kept track of over the years. Now, I'm sure a couple of them probably aren't very funny and were actually serious and whatnot there, but at least one of them, I've got to figure, given the line of work that it is, have you had that moment where you're actually in the hospital going, I can't believe I'm in the hospital because of blank that just happened there?
Well, I'll share a quick stories. So I'm in Ottawa. I'm doing the Senators back at the Civic Center. I jumped off a railing onto a set of stairs, completely missed. First time my dad had ever come to see me perform. And I remember, I'm fine, right? I'm fine. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And go out to a friend's party afterwards. And I'm like, I'm not fine. So
Yeah.
I go to one of the hospitals in Ottawa, and the ER doctor was at the game. And he was like, I saw you fall and then hopping around on one foot. You're an idiot. And then I got rehab, and the doctor who was rehabbing me was like a big hockey fan. We need you back. So she was like, all right, we're gonna get you back. There's that one, stands out. And then the other one would probably be Janet Gretzky at the 1996 NHL All-Star Game. Saw me in the corner, looking as white as this jersey, and called an ambulance because I was about to pass out, and I was dehydrated from flying and not looking after. Like, you need to drink a lot of fluid when you're performing.
Yeah.
And my buddies were coming to meet me, and I was like zoomed off in an ambulance, and they're like, "Where are you?" That was embarrassing.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, obviously, you've lived a very wild adventure of a career here, and you've actually just released a book now entitled "The King of Cheer," which is chronicling your whole journey, right?
Oh,
So, again, for those that are on the YouTube here, this is what we're talking about here. This book. What can readers expect out of this book if they go out and pick it up?
What can they expect? I'm going to bring you on a ride, really, a journey. My whole idea was that if I'm sitting beside you on a plane, if I meet you at a cocktail party, if we're at a bar, I'm going to be like, "Oh, tell me the time you made it to Cleveland into the NBA Finals. How'd you get that gig? What happened there?" Or tell me about, I was doing TV in Toronto, then I decided to move to LA, and it's like taking you on this crazy sort of road trip of adventures, the highs and lows. And I don't just talk about, "Oh, look at me, I'm at the NHL Finals." It's more like the behind the scenes, and also, like, the big thing for me is, like, this book in a way is also I've never really said this, but it's a thank you too to the fans for having me, and to all the team executives who said, we want to do something different for our fans.
Mhm.
And my whole career, I've said, whether it was, this crazy jersey and, ice skaters, or any of the jerseys behind me, I say, like, if you're not going to bring me in, what are you doing for your fans?
Yeah.
So I share some stories in here as well about some of the crazy promotions I've seen. And the New Jersey stories in there, pretty funny. I got a great quote from Martin Brodeur, name drop. And he goes, after a game once, I'm in the hallway and I'm dripping with sweat and I can barely walk. And he's coming out to get, I don't know what he was going to the trainer's room, and he sees me and I'm dripping and sweat. He looks at me and he goes, "You should have been third star at least tonight, there, guy." Like, beautiful French Canadian accent. It was like, And I'm sitting there going, yeah, like I thought he was going to pass me a Coke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. The mean Joe Green toss you a towel or something in the tunnel there,
Something.
right? Yeah, yeah. So I mean, was this sort of your idea as far as like, you know what, I've done this for 26 years, I've got all these great stories, I want to make a book, or was it just so many people, you know, in your life saying like, you've probably got enough stories here, you should start considering putting something in writing? Like, how did the idea to put together the book sort of come about?
Yeah, there's been different iterations of wanting to do it. And, I'm, very all over the map and focus wise and all that stuff. So I put down as many stories as I could on a wall. And I was like, okay, do I have enough here? It was a very sort of beautiful mind moment. and and then I cut and paste, and I had a friend help me who was like, nope, that story's not good. Oh, that story's great. Let's do more on that one. Or this fits here. Where's the narrative? And it was hard,
Yeah,
but it was like sitting there in a room with like your whole life in front of you. Like some of the pictures we have, people are like, are you losing your mind?
yeah,
I'm like, no, I just want them to click. Like I want each story to click, and I want you to feel like you were there.
yeah.
And it was a long process. And then with COVID, it was like, do I finish? What do I do? And when COVID hit, I actually upped my game, like that's when I really took hold of the project and crossed the finish line.
Yeah, yeah. So what was harder in your experience there, writing this book or performing in New Jersey?
Man, that's a good one. Writing the book for sure.
Writing the book for sure. I figured. So I mean, where can people find this book? Where can people not only purchase it, but also even just get more information on you and your career and sort of what it is that you do? Where can people find that?
CameronHughes.tv is my main website, and you can get a book signed or personalized, or you could go on like any of the big retailers, Amazon and all that sort for a book. I'm doing a lot of events now. I've been doing a lot of like Zoom meetings and stuff. So that's another thing that people are doing. And instead of, a fee, they'll buy 50, 75, 100 books for their employees and their team, which is pretty cool because I haven't really had a career since March. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. I did an interview a while ago, and I got emotional talking about my journey because somebody's got to give you a shot. And the fans in Ottawa were like, hey, they gave me the shot. You know what I mean? If they hadn't reacted or cheered or supported that night, I don't know where I'd be,
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, for those that are listening here, head over to the website, pick up a copy, do it now because who knows with shipping wherever you are in the world there, you want to get it in time for Christmas, right? So get your pre-orders now, head over there. And while you're there, check out some of the other stuff that Cameron's been up to. It's been a wild journey, and we wish you all the best. And hopefully we can see you actually live at an event again sometime in the near future as well.
Well, thank you. And it's funny. A lot of people are like, "Oh, are you going to quit now that with everything that's happening?" I'm like, it's actually giving me a little more fuel to want to keep doing it for a bit longer.
Yeah.
I almost want to make my list of 20 events I want to do when it opens up, and then be like, "All right, I'm out." You know what I mean? Get out, wheel me out of there.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime. So stay tuned for the Cameron Hughes bucket list tour there, and he's going to knock off his 20 biggest venues and then ride off into the sunset.
I'll be like, in Prince Albert, you'd be like, oh, I didn't think that's what he meant.
Amazing. Well, thanks for joining us, Cameron. We wish you all the best.
Thank you. Cheers.